do it. So I got Greg McHale with me. We were just chatting offline a little bit about what he is doing, and Greg agreed to come on. And he was kind of like, how did you find me to come on the Unconventional Money Moves podcast?" And Greg was telling me about what he's doing. I was like, "That's exactly why." So happy to have Greg come on. And it was interesting to hear you were an athlete. We didn't get really into details of what kind of athlete that you were and how that transitioned into what you're currently doing now in the media space. So what
Yeah.
sort of athlete were you, and like how did that transition to what you're doing now with your current projects?
Yeah. Well, thanks, Josh. Thanks for having me, man. So the athletic side, and I guess to give you a holistic approach to what I do have going on. So I have a television show which is in the hunting space, and I hunt out west here. So, and the style of hunting that I do in the mountains, and I live in the Yukon, right next to Alaska. So we live in the wild places of North America for sure. And the style of hunting that I do, I brought my athletic background to it, which was adventure racing. So I used to professionally adventure race for a number of years, and then after transitioning from that, I wanted to keep that style of hunting, or that style of athletics. And adventure racing is basically an endurance sport where you use map and compass to navigate cross country, and the main disciplines are biking, paddling, and running. So really long races, 400 to 1,000 kilometer races uh, over multiple days. And I really wanted to bring that style of athleticism to the world of hunting. And there's no better place to do it than in Western Canada or the United States.
That's super cool. And like where's your show? And like where are people watching it that may not be
Yeah.
familiar with it?
So the television show is broadcast on the Sportsman Channel. You can also find myself on YouTube, where a lot of the shows I put them up, and that everything is Greg McHale's Wild Yukon. So yeah, if you're interested in hunting, or certainly an athletic pursuit, or the beautiful mountains, just the scenery, like the place that we live, and the place that I get to hunt is one of the most spectacular in the planet. So it's a pretty good spot to be in.
And these races, I feel like I've seen these races, and like I don't know who it was, but like there was like one person who's like the head honcho of these races, and they have like the sticks, the compass, they're like going through the woods. Is that like the kind of races that you were competing in?
Yeah, that's exactly the style of racing. I raced all over the world, and it's from Mongolia to Australia, uh, and everywhere in between. So it was, yeah, it's a really neat sport. It's probably the most physically demanding team sport on the planet. Um, and that's what really drew me to it, was the diversity of athlete that you need to be able to be successful, and then the teamwork and team dynamics that it requires to be, to move through a course and still stay cohesive and come at, do the best you can, and, help each other out along the way. So it's a fantastic sport, but not
So
popular by any means, because it's really damn hard.
I was gonna ask, why would anyone want to do this? It sounds like
Yeah.
how long are these? You were saying like 300-400 mile races,
Yeah. Yeah. Often.
and it's through like terrain. So it's not just like Forrest Gump just felt like running. This is like over the meadow, through the woods, through the mountains to the end of the
Exactly.
race we go.
Exactly. And you have to navigate your way through it, and you have to hit a series of checkpoints that you don't know, where you literally get the maps like 24 hours before the race, and you have to plot all your own checkpoints off of GPS coordinates. So it's a very it is a very, very demanding sport, mentally and physically, because you have to remain in the game throughout the race. And we often would sleep once the race starts, and it finishes when it finishes. So you have to, you've got to manage yourself and manage your teammates. And often we would not sleep for the first 36 hours, and then every 24 hours after that, we would probably sleep an hour and a half to 2 hours. and literally in the bush, in a garbage bag or whatever you need to do to, just to stay warm, and it's pretty minimalist.
So like,
I
let's
could see
pick a
that.
race that you did. What's one race that you did? You said you were mentioning you did a race in Mongolia.
Mhm.
So just so like, I don't want to hear like all the details. Like you can keep the nasty details out. But like, how how does this race like start? Like what happens during the race? Like in terms of like when you start going the wrong way, or like
Yeah.
how does all of that work to help like educate someone about like what exactly these are? Because it's not exactly mainstream media.
Yeah, no, it's definitely not mainstream. Um, because of it's so hard to follow a team, like even to have the cameras there. That's why it's such a difficult sport to film. Therefore, very few people know about it, generally speaking. But the race, it's a mass start. There are four person teams, and at the highest level, you must have one person of the opposite sex. So you have 3 men and 1 woman on each team, or yeah, you can have 2 and 2. It doesn't matter what the mix up, but all the top teams on the planet are 3 men and 1 woman. And you have to when the race starts, like I said, you get your maps 24 hours in advance typically, and you plot your checkpoints, and then you start at the start line, and you're just navigating, map and compass, no GPSs, generally speaking. um, and you continue throughout the course. Say you go for the first, I don't know, you run a marathon through the bush, and then you get to your bikes, and your bikes will be at a certain checkpoint. You hit that checkpoint, transition to your bikes, and literally you have to build your bike, because you have to put them in boxes so that the race organization can move them around. It's not like a triathlon where you just run in, grab your bike, and go. You literally have to assemble them, and then go. And then maybe you might bike for 100 miles, and then you hit a water section. Then you'll paddle for 24 hours, like, and it just gets broke up. And really, the thing is managing your sleep deprivation, managing your team dynamics, and going in the right direction. Because there's been many races that I went in the wrong direction for hours, and but that doesn't, these races are so hard, they're so long, there's so many variables that can come into play that you can never count yourself out. Like, you could go in the wrong direction for 2 hours, and then realize it, make a good navigational correction, and, 12 hours later, 24 hours later, you're back in the same position as you were, or better. So it's having the mindset that you never quit, and you never, just you don't get down. You try to maintain a high level of, for lack of a better term, enthusiasm. But it's really about keeping your head down and just moving forward. And it's the best metaphor for life that I've ever experienced. And what I took away from that sport, translates to regular everyday life so amazingly. And that's why, my wife and I have been quite successful in business. And I think a lot of it comes down to adventure racing, and having to overcome difficulties, and failing, making mistakes, and getting back up and moving forward again. So I I know that not many people know about this sport, because it is crazy difficult. It's mentally challenging, and it will break you down. And if you don't have a strong mental game, or if you're not, if you have a lot of ego, this this sport will bring it out of you, and you will not do well.
Yeah, 400 miles. Like that's more than most people may travel by foot in their entire life, let alone in the span of one event. So, are you able to share like a scary moment that you had during one of these races?
Yeah, well, I've had a number of them, but one time we were racing. Two really come to mind. Racing in, or it's around water. But one time in Scotland, we were racing in the dark in the middle of the night, and we are on the side of a mountain, and it often the mountains aren't steep and rocky like they are in the north, or where I live. They're steep, but it's turf. And it was raining and just around freezing. And that's, and you couldn't see anything, fogged in. And we're just coming across this side hilling across this mountain. And it was pretty sketchy. And I used to big wall climb and mount high altitude mountaineer. So I have a good sense of what's sketchy and what's not. And sometimes, ignorance is bliss, but that was the situation where everybody got across and it was all good. But yeah, the objective danger there, or the possibility of a fall and of one of the teammates, while sleep deprivation is a huge thing, and you're not always coherent. And this was late in the race, and we that was a sketchy one. But often it's around water. We've been in races where people have went into the water and not come out. And water is one of the major factors that you really have to have your head in the game, especially, big white water or ocean paddling. In New Zealand, we were ocean paddling one time, and the swells were 10 feet high, and we were trying to get back into the beach. And I think there was hundreds of boats out there, and I think that maybe two boats actually made it in, and without flipping over. And like, just complete destruction of, thousands of dollars in boats. And you know and just, you're in a washing machine. And when you certainly live in the north where I do, you're not used to those huge ocean swells. So, and breaking, big breaking ocean. So I mean, I'm sure if you were a surfer, this wouldn't have been that big of a deal. But yeah. So yeah, lots of stuff around water that's a big problem. Especially, white water, and being, like, generally speaking, being sleep deprived and being just tapped out. You don't necessarily make the right decisions at as quick as you would if you were fresh. So these are where people get in trouble, and often, nighttime water and nighttime are a bad combination.
What kind of people are doing these races? Because like a lot of people may be like, "Yo, those people need to get jobs," but you have a successful business, and you've turned this passion into, seems like, profitable. So
Yeah.
like, what kind of people are doing these sort of things that could potentially kill you?
Yeah, no, I mean, they're definitely definitely a different, it's not your average person that is interested in these kind of things. Like, I find myself, and the older I get, the more I actually recognize what it is that draws me to a certain, these adventures, for lack of a better term. Um, it's the interest in pushing myself to really find out where my limits are, or to find out who I am. And often when you do that in a physical forum, you break yourself down. And the type of person that chooses to do this versus is forced to do this.
Oh, people are
um
forced to do this?
well, no, I don't mean forced to. I mean forced to find out who you are by external forces. Whether you join, okay, so say you join the military and you go through boot camp. Okay, like, now you're being dictated to as to what you're going to do and how hard you're going to push yourself. Now, for us in this sport, I just I just felt that I needed to figure out where my limits are and how do I push past those limits. And most people aren't interested in knowing that. Most people aren't. So it is a certain type of person that is willing to push themselves beyond others. It's almost beyond a level of comfort that you can't comprehend. It's enjoying the unknown. That's why I love the sport, is because you don't know what you're going to come up against, around the next corner. Or if you're a triathlete, you know exactly what's going to happen. Like, there's no surprises. everything is laid out for you, or you've laid it out for yourself. You've laid out a path to success. Now, adventure racers are, they want that same push of the body, but they don't want the knowledge of how that push is going to come and how it's going to be played out. And I think that adventure racers, if you run into them, and I'm not talking somebody that's done one race, but somebody that has made a career or really has pursued it at the highest level, you're definitely talking about, you're talking to a different type of person.
I feel like you gotta be crazy to do this.
Or you got to be so sane that you understand that you need to push yourself, in order to get the most out of yourself and who you are, and then translate that to the rest of your life.
You
But most
definitely
people would
figure out who you are on one of these trips.
most people would go with what you're saying is, you're not sane.
Yeah. It seems like the biggest test most people went through recently was being locked down during COVID. That
Yeah.
that seemed like a mental test for a lot of people. But this is mental, physical, not knowing, like, have people been attacked by animals on these things?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't say, I haven't heard of anybody being, mauled by a bear or something like this. Often in these quote unquote third world countries, it's dogs. You know, you it's being attacked by dogs while you're on your bike or something like that happens actually almost every race in one of those countries. Um, but yeah, no, it's to back to kind of your point, is most people had to deal with the lockdown as being the most challenging thing. But there's an external situation. That's not one that we chose. It's one that was forced upon us. And then you have to deal with it. So, like for me, I own a major, like the largest tourism business here, in the Yukon where I live. And that that business caters to the cruise ships. So you can imagine what the last 3 years has looked like, for that business. And that's adventure racing. A light or years of adventure racing prior to that has really built the mental domination that is required when you have you know a big part of your life, all of a sudden it's like literally gone. Like it's just evaporated. Like your business is done. And we had, 35 employees, and now they're all out of work and we're out of work. And it was a tough, challenging time. And that was thrust upon us. Didn't choose it, but it's really, how do you deal with it? And things like when you find yourself, or when you are willing to push yourself internally to find out, and I'm not saying everybody has to be an adventure racer. That doesn't make sense. But you have to step outside your comfort zone. And when you step outside that comfort zone, you really find out, who you are and what you're made of. And sometimes you don't like what you see, but that's an opportunity to take that and go, okay, I'm going to change this. I'm going to, look for the positive in all of these aspects and move forward. And that's what, the whole COVID lockdown thing for that business for us was. Yes, it was challenging, but at the end of the day, it's just another challenge.
Yet, from what I'm gathering, it seems like these adventure races are going to prepare anyone for what they may not be ready for, whether it's getting downsized in a job, whether it's losing a loved one, whether it's, loss of a dream. And by being able to actually see who you are, by pushing yourself to those extreme limits without killing yourself, can definitely help people find out who they truly are, to bring out that best performance for their future and to become resilient no matter what life might throw at them.
Yeah, there's there's no doubt that that is exactly what adventure races are going to provide somebody. But I know that most people are not going to do that. So how do you find that same style, or how do you find that resilience or that ability to be able to push through in difficult situations? Well, first off, you just have to put yourself in difficult situations, and often I did it. You know, I believe that the easiest way to do it is through physical fitness, or through putting yourself physically in a challenging situation, because nobody that owns a business is saying, "Hey, I should demo this at this part of my business just so I can see if I can build it up." No, of course not. But every one of us can always look and go, "Okay, what about my physical fitness? Can I do it? Does it need to be better? And if it does need to be better, how do I challenge myself and push myself beyond where I I'm comfortable?" And that's where it's found. It's found in the uncomfortable areas, and the fear of the unknown. So those are the situations that I recommend anybody look for. And obviously, I'm a huge proponent of being physically active and pushing yourself, and because at the end of the day, if whether it's business or it's family or it's just life, the more physically capable you are, the better everything is going to be. You're going to be a better husband. You're going to be a better father. You're going to be a better employee, or you're going to be able to run your business better. You're just going to have more energy. And that's the foundation of it all. For me, the foundations of success is four things. It's, having great relationships and focusing on those relationships, and having people around you that lift you up. you know that's so it starts with relationships and having health, you know being able to be capable of doing those 10 flights of stairs if you need to, you know just waking up every day and moving forward in a physical way, and being in the not everybody has to be this gym, muscle house. It's just move your body, put good food in the body, because it's just a machine. You put good fuel in the machine, good things come out. You have good relationships, you can take care of your finances. You have relationships and you have good health. Finance, I believe that financial freedom or financial success will come because you have the energy to work harder, and then you get noticed, and then you just make more money. And then the last thing is you must have a goal. You have to have a goal, something that you're looking for, something that you're moving toward. And if you don't have a goal in life, you've got to get out and find one, because otherwise you're just going to you just sit around and watch television or social media or whatever it is. Like, you got to strive for something, wake up with a purpose. That's what I believe is the four pillars of a successful individual, man or woman, doesn't matter.
I didn't know we were gonna get philosophical, but I like it. I like it. I mean, one thing, my wife kind of got on me this, but like one thing I always like to do, and I'm not doing 400-mile races or anything crazy, but like when I go to a grocery store, I go to a store, I park in the back, because if I make an
Right.
extra 200 steps a week, that's an extra 10,000 steps a year. If I do that every single year, how many extra steps am I taking to make sure I'm taking my health seriously? And I feel like that's what Kobe Bryant really did a good job of. He's like, listen, if I wake up and I train at 4, and then I go and I eat breakfast and I rest, and if I'm training 4 times a day versus your 2 times a day, eventually uh, I'm gonna just outwork you, because I'm gonna put in those extra steps. I'm gonna put in those extra hours, and it appears to me that's what you've done a really great job of with this adventure training, and how that's translated to your success in the business world.
Yeah, no, I think that's like Kobe. I've listened to the same things that obviously you are, and he was a great example of how it's how success, or how he created a successful life for himself and became one of the greatest, right? And that is what it is. It's all about the little steps every day, and having the self-discipline um, to be able to do things that your average person can't wrap their head around doing. And I think that that's a really important point, is that I believe everybody is capable. It's just a matter of having the self-discipline to do the things that most people don't want to do. The early mornings, the extra hours, the practice. There's a great book um, that I've been reading, and it's called Talent is Overrated. And it really just talks about the extra effort and the amount of effort, not just garbage effort, but focused effort in the amount that you have to put forward to be great, to be unbelievably exceptional at anything. And if you do that, you do not have to start out as, the talent. You don't have to have the talent. You have to have the work ethic and the self-discipline to do it every day, and you will achieve the goal.
Yeah, and I feel like that comes down to just doing 1% every day. Maybe you're out of shape. Just go to the gym and then leave. But like at least get in the habit of going to the gym. I mean, when it comes to like building wealth, a lot of people look at Warren Buffett, they're like, yo, he's so rich. But like what people don't understand is 99% of his wealth was generated after 60 years old.
Yeah.
But if you can take that one extra step a day, if you can invest that extra $1 a day, if you can, just go to the gym and literally make it a habit by doing those little steps, that can definitely make you a success, such as what you've created through your organization.
Yeah. It's if you ever listen to anybody who has what we put up on the pedestal, it's the long game. It's everybody's saying the same thing. Everybody is. It's the long game. You have to look 5-10 years down the road. If you're only looking at the instant gratification that our society is built on right now, um, you will be no better than average. But if you can have the tenacity and the foresight to look long term, the 1% every day, you will be successful. And it's getting easier and easier to to be successful under what I call success, if you just do that, because most people are lazy. Most people, no, I don't, most people are not interested in pain for the sake of pain or suffering. And what we call suffering now or pain now, compared to what our great grandparents dealt with, like, we are soft human beings compared to, just look back at your great grandfather, or the men or women around that era and what they dealt with compared to what we deal with. We're in the best time of human existence as far as the ease of life. And I believe you have to look for hardship. You have to look for difficulty often in order to understand.
Totally. Gotta, what's the phrase? If you do what is hard, you gotta do what's hard to make your life easy. If you do what's easy, your life will be hard. Something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm not a philosophizer or
But it's
anything.
so it's all true. If you study people that are successful, everyone's saying the same thing.
Yeah, it's just tough for people to realize that, because being in the present moment and giving that up is
Yeah.
hard. It's hard for a lot of people.
Yeah. It's whether it's sugar, whether it's, you know, alcohol, like whatever it is. Like, we live in a society that everything is handed to us. And also we live in a society, when it comes to your health and fitness, that there's never been more information, but it's also never been so hard, because the food at which is sitting in our grocery stores, and the food that the system is not set up for success, because of many different reasons, whether it's capitalism or whatever you want to call it, you know, but it's really easy to take a look at the food that is on the shelves and go, wow. If you really dig in, because the information's out there, but it's really hard, hard to find. The food, generally speaking, that we consume on a daily basis is crap. And we really need to. I just wish the government would walk in. I don't know whether, like, I'm in Canada, so whether it's here or there, it would be really interesting to watch a government walk in and just start turfing everything off the shelves that was not good for you. You would see the obesity rates turn around in a real quick hurry. And because the way it is right now, it's not a pretty scene out there.
Yeah, like some of the best advice I got when it comes to shopping in the grocery is just you don't have to be an expert, but just look at the ingredients. If there's more than like 4 or 5 ingredients, you may want to question what exactly you're putting in your body. Like, but if I buy an apple, it says apple. If I buy egg, it says egg. I mean, I don't know exactly where that apple or egg came from, but at least I can limit what I'm putting into my body.
Yeah.
Because I mean, we don't really know exactly what is going into producing everything that we're consuming.
Yeah. This is one that if you just ate foods that your grandparents or your great grandparents would recognize, you're on the right track. Because Kellogg's Fruit Loops as being part of the food pyramid. I don't know.
Yeah, one of the most eye-opening things I heard is that it may have been Kellogg's that they trademarked or coined the phrase like breakfast is the most important meal of the day. And it got people to be like, I have to eat breakfast. So what are people consuming? Eggs, bacon, cereals, all of these things. Versus now we're starting to see like the benefits of like fasting and things of that nature that are actually coming into light. Such as like the carnivore diet, just eat meat and salt. But it's everyone's a little bit different. I mean, what are you eating on these trips when you're on
Yeah,
these adventures, like to keep you fueled for a 400-mile?
yeah. So this is a complete contrast to how I live my life, generally speaking, because you're trying to consume, like, you got to understand, adventure. This sport is one that is not. It's not normal. It's not a. I wouldn't even consider it necessarily a healthy thing to do, um, because you do get into sleep deprivation. You get into, the food that you're consuming is just high calorie because you're just constantly burning. So it's not a great it's not a great way to live your life long term. That's for sure. But we would do like four to five races a year. But the way I live my life, as far as the food that I consume, generally speaking, is whole foods. I would say that it's quite mostly plant based, even though I obviously hunt a lot. Um, but the meat that we consume in our house is none of it's processed, and it's everything that I've killed. So it's literally the best meat that you're going to find on the planet. And we don't I wouldn't say that we consume what would the average American or the average Canadian, the amount of meat that the average person would consume. So we really try to focus on plant-based whole food diet with about maybe 10% red meat, and stay away from as much processed food as we possibly can. Obviously, if you go out for dinner or something, you're going to, or I shouldn't say obviously, but where our family is, if we go out for dinner, we're going to enjoy the dinner and enjoy the meal. I'm not 100%, anti all that, because I think that that's part of having a bit of balance is also a good thing. Um, but yeah, like the foods that we would consume on a race are what would be considered complete garbage, generally speaking. Yeah, you can have power bars and gels and stuff like that that are going to give you, and nuts and berries and stuff like that, dried, but you have to carry everything. So it's the highest calories that you can get in the smallest amount of food, really.
How much harder would these races be if they made you like hunt your own food?
Well, I probably wouldn't have lost very many if that was the
Maybe that's the next race we create is one we have to like hunt. You have to
case.
like it's like a you have to hunt one thing. You have to have like certain objectives that you
Yeah. It
check
was
off.
it was funny when I was racing in New we would race in New Zealand, and some of the best athletes in the planet in this sport are in New Zealand. So it's a great place to train because they don't have a winter, right? So they can train all of these sports all year round. And some of the best athletes are also, I connected with them really well because a lot of them do hunt. So it was yeah, it was always great to go down there and hang out with like-minded people doing like-minded things, and not just the athletic side but also the hunting side. So yeah, the Kiwis still would have been difficult to beat even if we were throwing hunting in there.
Yeah, that would make it even crazier, more crazy.
Yeah.
Uh, if you have to hunt your own food on top of everything else that's thrown your way, known and unknown. And with all of that being said, like let's talk more about your the business side of things. So like we have a really clear picture on how you've like built yourself into such a resilient person. Now, what's going on with you like with your media company and what you're producing through your shows and whatnot?
Yes, so, the company was founded off of the television show. So I started a production company, but, and that was in 2017. But over the years, I've built more of a media company with the understand like the television show is just one aspect of the larger picture. And yeah, so that's one of the companies that we have. We have some real estate, commercial real estate stuff, and the tourism business. And this tourism business should come back or 2023 in the summer here in a good way. So we'll know that in the next few months. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at, and I spend a lot of time on the media side. So we work with a number of the top brands in the hunting space. And yeah, it's great relationships, and it's great. It's really the television show showed me what is really needed out there for your average company. It's not the days where you have your brick and mortar sales, and you just distribute to them and get it out there. There's so much more to it now. And I think that's really where we've been able to help companies, and the ones that I work with, whether it's their email campaigns, or whether influencer marketing, whether they're it's just their digital assets, and just the holistic approach to what a company needs now compared to what it did 10, 20 years ago is the landscape's completely different. And that's where we're able to help in all those aspects.
In like what sort of way are you like helping people? Like me, for example, how would you help? Are you able to help someone like myself, or is it specifically to the hunting
No, I
field?
mean, when it comes to marketing, it's all the same. Like, whether it's the hunting genre, whether it's the outdoors, whether it's you're selling cars, I believe that the core and the foundation of it is really very similar. And it's about so yes, so could I help you? For sure. um we that you start out, you got to break down the business, and want to and understand what the goals of the business are, and really dig into the foundation and what it is that what there's certain steps that you're going to have to do, and where are you along that scale. And once we realize, we do the background work, because I believe that anybody that just walks in and says, oh yeah, I can solve your problem, well, you really need to know what the problem is. And that's where we start with an exploratory questions, and really trying to find out what it is that your business needs, or where you want to go with it. And then we would build out, how do we get you there. And there's a process to doing such.
Yeah, there's always an order of operations to ensure something is successful. And like, I want to know more about your show. Like, it's on YouTube. It's on mainstream television.
Yep, it's on mainstream television and the Sportsman channel. We also have some digital partners. We're overseas and in Europe as well. But so Sportsman channel on the Outdoor Life Network, or sorry, not on the Outdoor Sportsman group. Um, and then that's where you can find us if you have television on linear TV. But YouTube is just Greg McHale's Wild Yukon. And we have a lot of educational content, but everything is around the hunting genre over there. So that's kind of where my people would mostly know me from, is from hunting for sure.
That's awesome. I appreciate you coming on. This was a enlightening conversation, and I'm sure everyone that listens to it's going to enjoy it. So happy to have you on, Greg, and we'll see everyone next time.
Okay, thanks, Josh. Appreciate it.